Hello Facebook, hello Instagram. Marianne Sedembrino here again for another Thirsty Thursday. And this Thursday, I hope you're thirsty for knowledge. We're going to be discussing some really frequently asked questions, different concerns people have about their health, and things specifically relating to your health and the holidays. So I wanted to thank everybody for their participation last week in our Sobering Truth About Wine and Spirits episode. It was great to see so many people participating. I love getting your questions. It's great to get them because then I can tailor the content specifically to what it is you want to know. So I wanted to speak about things you need to be aware of for the holiday season. One of them, the biggest one, is probably stress. We have more traffic, we have less time, we have more parties. Our time outside of work is usually very spoken for with a lot of different holiday obligations, and you have professional parties, you have your social parties, you've got your family stuff. It's a lot. So, simple things that you can do to help keep your stress level down. Number one, stay hydrated. Hydration is key. The first thing that happens when you get dehydrated is you very often feel sleepy, headachy. Sometimes you feel hungry, and it's not like legit hunger. It's actually a false hunger that's coming from being dehydrated. So you're much more likely to make better choices for all of your health if you stay hydrated. The other thing is, this is not the time to skimp on exercise. Exercise is more important during times of stress than other times. And of course, when your hours outside of work are so crowded with all these other things, it's a very easy thing to blow off as your exercise. It is crucial that you do something specifically devoted to movement. Movement for the sake of movement. That is a very well-researched fact, the benefits of exercise and stress. It actually beats Prozac. So if part of your health challenge with the holidays is the blues and feeling depressed, you absolutely want to engage in aerobic activity, because 6 months of aerobic activity, people actually did better on that than they did on Prozac for depression. The other thing about the holidays and stress is sleep. So it's very important to make sure you're doing anything and everything you can to get adequate rest. The other thing that's important in terms of managing your time is in saying no. If it is not absolutely necessary for you to do, say no. You don't have to accept every invitation. You don't have to do every single holiday-related activity. So making sure that you are taking really good care of yourself and not overcommitting. It's challenging because I know in my life I have a lot of people that I love, and there is a wish there to want to make everybody happy. And it's important that we all be very realistic that we need to take care of ourselves first. That might mean delegating. Oftentimes that means saying no for me and taking things off of my list that are absolutely not necessary. The other thing about the holidays is nutrition. So as far you have to stay hydrated, really great exercise routine, don't skimp on that, making sure you're getting great sleep, and nutrition is next on our list. So there is just so much sugar and treats, and we talked last week about wine and spirits. There's more of that over the next few weeks than there is like the rest of the year. So a few strategies about that. One of them is, if you can, wean yourself off of the real simple sugar and stick with more complex carbohydrates. That can help satisfy the body's need for sugar without eating simple sugar. And so one of my favorite ways to do that is a baked yam or sweet potato. And you can put a little cinnamon on it, grass-fed butter, some good sea salt, and eating one of those very often as early in the day as you can kind of satiate that part that wants that sugar, and it's much easier to say no to the simple sugars when you've eaten something really complex and nourishing like that. Another very complex carb that's great for sugar cravings is a grain called mochi, M-O-C-H-I. It's sold either frozen or refrigerated in little flat cakes. You bake it and it puffs up, and it's crunchy on the outside and chewy in the middle. You also could put grass-fed butter on that. There's a cinnamon raisin one that's my favorite. Bake that up, little pure grass-fed butter and cinnamon on that too. It's delicious. The other nice thing about mochi is that it gives you really good endurance. So it helps with the sugar cravings, gives you a very sustained kind of energy. And this time of year, again, getting something like that in early makes it easier to say no to the not so great stuff later. The other thing is to kind of get really honest with yourself about what it is that pulls you towards the sugar. So for some people, they actually have a craving. Other people, it's a visual thing. Like somebody that's craving it might turn their car, into a convenience store and run in and buy, a little cake, cookie, candy, whatever their deal is. Somebody else would not do that, but if it was there at the office, if there is that box of Dunkin' Munchkins, the tray of cookies, if it's there and they see it, then boom, they're done. So being honest with yourself about which category you tend to fall into. If you are the visual one, asking for support from the people, in your office or in your home, and not putting yourself in proximity to the sweets. So asking people, keep it in the break room and then staying out of the break room. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a napkin and putting it over top of it so you don't see it, staying away basically from wherever it is those sweets are. The other strategy I have for you is about going out to all of these parties and wanting to keep to a good, healthy diet. It's important that you don't go out hungry or thirsty. So before you leave for the party, make sure you fill yourself up with really great healthy stuff, because most of the time when we go to parties, the stuff that's being offered is usually not a great option. So making sure that you get plenty of good nutrients in and lots of hydration in prior to leaving for the party. So I wanted to address one of the questions we had. We had a question about a very specific toxin in the brain, which we've answered that question specifically. I wanted to share a little bit more about detoxification, because this time of year, again, we're going to be exposed to more things than we're normally exposed to. There is the stress, the psychological stress, financial stress, emotional stress. There's the physiological stress of all the driving, the shopping, and the kind of strange eating patterns that we might fall into this time of year. So there are some things that you can do to really help get the toxins out of the body. Some of these are going to sound familiar. Hydration. Water is one of the fastest, easiest, and most crucial things needed in order for the body to get rid of toxins. Exercise. Basically sweating and getting that heart rate up and getting your breathing up, to a nice high rate. That helps clear toxins from the lungs and the whole body. That's really a great vehicle for getting toxins out of the body. You want to take really good care of your liver. Your liver is one of the primary organs of detoxification. So we've got great protocols at the office that you can do at home for getting the toxins out of the liver. We talked last week about the Angostura bitters. That's a great thing that you can do to get toxins out of the liver. Another great thing that you can do is first thing in the morning, you get an organic lemon and you squeeze half a lemon in a cup of hot water, and you have that first thing in the morning. And what that does is the whole time you've been sleeping, there is this accumulation of bile in the duct from the gallbladder. And that's great. That's what's supposed to happen. But you can really help get the toxins out of the body quicker and help get that bile moving faster by drinking a cup of hot lemon water first thing in the morning. It helps getting that gallbladder to contract and helps get that bile flushed out and get it moving. That also just is a great way to start your day. The other thing that I love that is, again, something very simple and accessible is very good, high-quality, organic green tea. And I recommend buying loose tea, and it should have a wonderful kind of aroma to it. And you should drink probably about 20 ounces of a good green tea a day. It gets the toxins out of the body. It's got wonderful antioxidants in it. So speaking of antioxidants, that's another thing that you need to make sure you're getting a lot of, because they do play a big role in detoxification, as well as keeping your body from aging. So toxins will absolutely accelerate the aging process. So making sure that, again, you're keeping the toxins clear and you're constantly doing things every week to clear the toxins from you will also assist you in avoiding some serious diseases and avoiding any kind of rapid aging. So we were talking about the green tea. It does have a little bit of caffeine in it, but it's a fraction of the caffeine that coffee has. And there's all these other phenolic and terpenes in there that have a lot of other health benefits. So when you put them all together, there is this wonderful benefit to the brain where you do feel very alert and clear, but there's kind of a calm that goes right along with it. So I actually really prefer it to coffee. You know, I try to get my coffee drinkers to have one first thing in the morning and then switching to green tea, because switching to green tea will actually give you that sense of clarity and that sense of alertness, but a very wonderful ability to focus. Whereas coffee, we say in Chinese medicine, we talk about qi, and coffee kind of scatters the qi. So it gives you this feeling of energy, but it's a very scattered form of energy. And then, of course, there is that crash that can come from coffee because it is such a large amount of caffeine at one time. The green tea being a smaller amount, and having all of those other wonderful plant sterols and things involved give it a much more sustained kind of energy. And it's great for productivity, and that's pretty much what a lot of us are after, is having more productive lives. So green tea is a great thing for that. Antioxidants, there's tons of them out there. I recommend that you all be taking an antioxidant. I like to rotate the antioxidant that I take. My favorite and the master or king of them all is one called glutathione. And that's one of my favorite services that we do at our office that I like to get personally, is we do glutathione intravenously. So getting the glutathione delivered directly to the bloodstream, you're bypassing the whole GI tract. And we do a lot of wonderful high-dose vitamin IVs, and the principle's the same. When you bypass the gut, you are getting the nutrients delivered right to the bloodstream, and they can go directly into the cells where they're needed. That's where we ultimately want them to end up. So by doing it into the bloodstream, you're getting a much powerful, in many cases, a lot higher of a dose than you could ever possibly get orally. When we're given certain nutrients, certain vitamins orally, specifically things like vitamin C and all, they can really upset the GI tract. And we're able to kind of, by going around the GI tract, we're able to give much, much, much higher doses. So there are doses that are maintenance doses, and then a lot of times with the work that we do, we're dealing with therapeutic doses, and those doses are much, much higher than the regular recommended dose that you might, get in a multivitamin. So yes, glutathione, the king of the antioxidants. The other things that you can do to keep the toxins moving along is there is a version of exercise that I love called rebounding. It is basically one of these miniature trampolines, and just by standing on it and bending your knees and straightening them, you get a very gentle bounce. And what that bounce does is it helps the circulation of the lymph. The lymph is kind of like the garbage collectors of the body, and the lymph system does not have its own mechanism for circulation. It's depending upon our movement. So sitting is the new smoking, and one of the consequences of sitting too much and having any kind of sedentary lifestyle, driving too much, just not moving, is that the lymph system does not get circulated. So the toxins are not going to be given that ride they need to get out of the body. They're going to accumulate. They're going to cause all kinds of other health problems. So getting access to a rebounder is a great idea. It's great to set it up in front of the television. And that's, part of your little discipline is if you want to watch TV, that's fine, but you need to be bouncing on the rebounder a little bit. It's also a great form of aerobic exercise because there is low to no impact. So folks that have problems with joints or folks that have an injury, it's also a great way that they can get cardio in without causing further damage to their joints. The other thing that you can do to help get the toxins out of the body is something called dry skin brushing. And that involves getting a body brush, and it can be like a back brush on a stick or one of these little wooden ones with a shorter handle. They have very soft bristles on them. And the idea is that just on dry skin, you make little circles starting at your fingertips, brushing up, starting at your toes, brushing up towards the heart, and then if you feel more comfortable going the other direction, you could start at the heart and brush in the opposite direction. But doing that first thing in the morning is amazing. If you can't get to it first thing in the morning, doing it if you take a shower at the end of the day, doing it prior to your shower, or doing it when you get home, it's a great way to get the toxins out of the body. It also helps with the turnover of the skin. We have skin cells on the top that have served us and they're done, and it's helpful to kind of knock them off and make way for the younger, healthier cells to come forward. There's also some treatments like far infrared saunas are wonderful for getting the toxins out of the body, as well as seaweed. Eating seaweed is another great way to get toxins out of the body. There is a formula that we have at the office that has a lot of things in a capsule. There's a combination of wonderful natural ingredients. You can take several of these capsules a day. I think I mentioned this as part of the protocol for folks that do have a drink or two. Remember, not more than two. You take some of these capsules before you go to bed. It actually, it's a type of a chelator. It pulls all the toxins to it, and then you just eliminate them through your large intestines. Speaking of large intestine, it's got to be working. If you are not going once a day, then you need to do something about that. We need to look at your fiber and your hydration and make sure there's no other serious causes for why you're not going. That is an absolute major vehicle for how the body takes out the trash. So if you are not going at least once a day, you need to look at adding fiber. Another way that you could encourage the elimination of toxins through the colon is by getting your magnesium in. So it's kind of nice because it can do both things. We find that most people are deficient in magnesium. So taking more magnesium can also help the bowel. You might want to start really slow with 1 capsule a day, gradually increase it, because if you take too much, it will give you the runs. That's not anything that any of us would be looking forward to. It's actually somebody's definition of fear, they said, is a bran muffin, a cup of coffee, and a traffic jam. Yes, very scary. So is taking too much magnesium. Very scary. It's a universal fear. So start out slow with the magnesium, gradually build it up. It's a great, great supplement for the nerves and the muscles and keeping yourself nice and calm and centered. And again, it does have this additional benefit to helping the bowel out. For the kidneys and the bladder, you can get pure cranberry juice, pure concentrated cranberry juice. No other fruit, not that fruit cocktail that's fruit juice sweetened. No, just pure cranberry juice. And it's definitely pricey. You'll know it's the right stuff because it's going to be much, much more money than any cranberry juice you've ever gotten. So we get a quart of it. I think Knutson's is a brand that Whole Foods has. And you just put a tablespoon or two in a glass of water and you drink that. It turns the water a pretty pink color. That really helps detox the kidneys. So the cran water is a great thing for helping the kidneys and the bladder. And that's another thing, too. A lot of women know that if you get a bladder infection, the folk medicine thing was to drink a bunch of cranberry juice. The downside of that is conventional cranberry juice is loaded with rubbish. You can get one that's fruit juice sweetened, but you're still going to be adding a lot of fructose, of sugar. And bacteria like sugar. So if you think you are possibly getting a bladder infection, drinking a bunch of cranberry juice that has a lot of sugars in it may increase the growth of the bacteria. So remember what I'm telling you about the cran water, because it does not have any added fruit juices or sweeteners. It is on the tart side for sure. That's a good thing. We want that tart flavor. It helps astringe the kidneys, and it really helps keep that bacteria from sticking to the bladder walls without having all those sugars in there that are going to encourage the growth of the bacteria. So that's it for me. Unless anybody's got any questions.
We do have a question. So back to the rebounder. Does it have to be a rebounder, or can it be any mini trampoline?
It can be any mini trampoline provided it's safe.
Or the ball. Bouncy ball.
Yes, so you could, if you have a physio ball, that's my Jiminy Cricket, my little Jiminy Cricket talking to me. You could use one of those physio balls and just sit on the physio ball, make sure your feet are flat on the floor, and you could do the bouncing on a physio ball as well.
And no other questions right now.
Well, that's great. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. And I hope you all have a happy and healthy holiday season. And feel free to continue to post any questions. Thank you. Bye.